Hey there, Matt Philleo in the studio today, working on a 12 by 16 portrait. This will be an acrylic on canvas, and today I'm working on the sketching process. So I already have the canvas all gridded out, and what I'll be doing is using a colored pencil, actually, a sepia tone colored pencil to complete the sketch. So I'm going to switch cameras here and we'll get right into it. Okay, so I have the photo reference on Photoshop and I put a grid overlay on top of it. And so this is the actual photo. This is a little cropping area because the image size that I'm painting is a 12 by 16. The proportions don't properly translate out. So I have this bar on the side to actually properly make it fit within the 12 by 16 inch proportions. And then I have this overlay grid. I can still see the sketch beneath it, and I'll be painting then using my image here on my laptop as a reference. And yeah, and this is how I'm going to proceed on it then. So I'll start with the lower left area and just kind of sketch what I see. And the grid really does a fine job in keeping your proportions accurate, but I'll still have to do a little bit of guesswork figuring out where certain details fall within the squares. And so it's going to still cause me to have to use my artistic muscle, so to speak, and just figuring out the shapes and the details and everything and how it fits together. But it's going to take out a lot of that guesswork as far as where things initially go. I've done a lot of freehand sketches, but when I'm teaching this to students, I like to teach using the grid method because I really think it helps people to get a good, accurate sketch right away without a lot of guesswork and frustration. And if you have a good, solid sketch to work from, you're going to have a much better portrait, as an end result. So I'm going to switch to my other camera. Okay, and so I have my terracotta colored pencil here. And I like to use a colored pencil as opposed to a graphite pencil for the main reason that colored pencil is a little closer to flesh tone color. And so if you're using a graphite pencil, you really have to use a lot of paint to alter that grayish color of the graphite. And since I use a glazing technique and I use a lot of translucent layers of paint, I don't want to have to do many layers to compensate for that gray color of the pencil. So I found that the sepia tone colored pencil, in this case terracotta, it's a nice strong rich color, very close to flesh tones, and it works very well for matching the color of the paint that I'll be putting on top of it. You could use maybe a dark brown as well, but this has enough of a reddish hue to it. It really works well as a flesh tone color, and it's a very strong dark value. And so because of that, you can see it very well against your grid. And we can still see the grid that I sketched out with a very light 10% gray colored pencil. But when this goes on top of it, this will stand out against the grid, and then that way then the grid will not be seen when you do your final layers of painting. And these are Prismacolors, fantastic colored pencils to use. So you don't have to buy a whole set. If you go to an art store, you can buy them singly and just get the colors that you need. But anyhow, make sure your colored pencil is very sharp. I have an electric sharpener that I use for that. And I like to start my colored pencil sketch from the left-hand side, and I just work my way over. Okay, so I'm going to start on the lower portion here. And just got done praying that this would be a blessed picture and it would bless those who see it and encourage them. I'm really believing that it'll have that special something in it, and capturing the likeness, that it would really just really carry the personality of the lady that I'm capturing here, and really look a lot like her. And again, be an encouragement to her, because this will be given to her as a gift. And anybody else that sees it would really be touched by it. So I'm going to start here in the lower left corner. I'm counting 4 squares up. And so I'm paying attention to where the lines fall on the grid. And I see that this goes, oh, let's see, maybe not all the way up to the top of the grid. And another thing I want to make sure I have on hand is a nice eraser. So I do have a white eraser, and then I also have a gum eraser. Both should work very well. Now, this kind of follows along the line here. And again, it's so important to make sure you start out at the right square. Some people like to number their squares. I have some portrait students that they thought it would be a good idea to number all the squares so you know where you're at. And that's not a bad idea if that helps you out. I figure once I get the first line correct, it usually everything comes into play and it's accurately proportioned. Just make sure I counted 4 squares up, just like what I see in my reference photo. Then I know I'm in good shape. So, okay, I'm going to continue. I'm following the reference. Now you can't see the reference image, unfortunately, but I'll see if I can shift back a couple of times as I'm working on this and show what I'm seeing on my laptop. I want to make sure that I'm following this exactly. And then this line goes, let's see. I'm just kind of paying attention to where the lines fall within the square. And this line here is representing, so I got her shoulder, and this represents her neck. And then this falls maybe a little, about a third to halfway. And then this is going to go, let's see, maybe, about 2/5 of the way over. So I kind of have fractions in mind. Is it halfway within the square? Is it maybe 2/3 or 2/5 or a quarter? You know, I just kind of have these little fractions in mind to keep myself on track. So right now I'm doing her ear, and then here's part of her hair. And something else I want to show you too. I'm just going to stop for a moment here. Well, I'll tell you what. No, I'll keep going. I'll show it to you later. Let's just keep this line going. And let's see. This is going to curve up like that. Hair goes past this line, a little into the other one, so maybe about a quarter of the way up. Intersects right here. And then goes down. And let's just make sure I'm on the right track. I'll count how many squares I have. I should be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then on my screen, although you can't see it, yeah, I have 7 squares, so I'm on the right track. Like I say, if you just start at the right area, pretty much if you're really paying close attention to your direction of your lines and your squares, you should stay right on track. Doesn't hurt to double check though. Let's see now. Okay, this goes maybe 3/5 of the way over. Then this is part of her ear, and then this goes down maybe a quarter. And then about right there, her cat is in front, so we don't see that. Okay, so now I'm going to, all right, so I'm going to show you the laptop image that I have. And again, let's pull the overlay off for a second. So I already sketched just this portion right here along the contours of her head, going around and her ear, and then all the way up to the cat. And then I'm going to work into the cat next, probably get the arm and some different things. I basically just want to get the overall outline of her first before I start getting a lot of details in. Then eventually I'll start getting some other notable features like her hairline and her eyes and her nose and her mouth, details in the cat and all those different things, the flowers, maybe a couple of leaves in the background so I kind of know where they're at. But I didn't discuss this before, but isn't this just a beautiful picture? You can see so much. There's so much detail in there. And I'm really looking forward to painting this. You got all the details within her eyes and the cat. And we had to kind of alter the colors a little bit. It was a little bit bluish, so I changed it on Photoshop to give it a little more of a natural look, and just altered the saturation of the blue and brought some reds and yellows into play a little more. But this is just going to be a beautiful portrait. Another thing I wanted to point out was the fact that the actual image size is this whole area, including this black and then this kind of pinkish margin on the side. And so in the original photo, you can see where her head was just touching the top. And I really didn't like that. And the client wanted there to be more space, understandably. So I added this extra image area here and cut and pasted the photo and then set it on this larger dark area. And so then as I put on the overlay, this becomes the whole image. And then, you know, I can invent the greenery behind her. That's not hard. And I can extend as I paint just that little bit on her shoulder. And the client wanted the flowers rather to have a prominent role in the painting. And so even though like normally you'd have something like this where the subject would be more centered within the painting, the flowers are very, very important to her. And so we want to make sure that they're prominently displayed. And so that's why she's kind of off to the left-hand side and her cat's a little more in the center. But I think it's going to be a beautiful composition. I think those flowers are so bold and detailed that they really become part of the subject matter, and that the picture will have a good balance and it'll work compositionally. So, all right, so I'm going to pause here and then I'm going to switch cameras back to what I'm sketching. All right, so getting back into the sketching, I'm going to start working on the cat. And I think I'm going to keep these lines flowing because I have a good benchmark where I'm at in the picture. I'll just start with the cat's ear. And let's see here. Just kind of flow this down. Really pay attention to where these lines fall. And I think I made a slight mistake there, but see how nicely the colored pencil erases off. And because I have the grid drawn in the light colored pencil and sealed with matte medium and gesso, there's no way I can erase this grid. So that's the beauty of this technique. And so I can really erase very firmly to lift off the colored pencil, but I'm not going to erase the grid at all. And you'll find that colored pencil actually erases easier on canvas than graphite does. So let's add the ear up in here. I think it should be a little higher, just a little higher, and then kind of flows down. I think I'm going to take my overlay on the grid and just bump it down a little bit so I can see the picture better. There we go. Okay. So this line here should be going somewhere. I have to kind of get a bearing for where I'm at. Somewhere down here. And then let's see. Goes to maybe the corner. So I'm drawing the outline of the cat right now. Try to suggest a little bit of the fur texture, but right now I'm more concerned about where these lines fall within the grid. This one intersects. This one's going to go down to maybe about, maybe 2/3. And then we have the, excuse me, we have the hand now. So we're done with the cat, and then it's going into her wrist, which that intersects. Then it goes maybe about to the other corner, intersects that one again. And then it maybe goes, probably would intersect again if I could see the rest of the photo. Now, we can refine these later. Boy, you really have to keep the colored pencil sharp. I'm going to sharpen it right now. And let's keep the outline going on the other side of the cat's ear. And I'm just double checking myself because the cat's ear actually lines up pretty close with her ear. Although her ear maybe goes down just a little bit further. But they're on the same square. So now I know, double checking myself, that I'm doing this correctly. And let's see here. Just get a little divot here. This is the top part of the cat. And let's see, this is going to go, yep. So this ear actually starts, maybe about 1/4 of the way in, cuts up inside, goes down just a little bit, and it's maybe about, I don't know. Maybe not, maybe 1/3 over, and then a 1/4 on the bottom side of the ear. There's a little tuft of hair. And I don't draw cats very often, so I have to pay attention to what I'm drawing and basically just draw what I see instead of what I think I see. And that's rule number 1 for realistic drawing or painting, is to render accurately what you see instead of what you think you see. Really pay attention to your reference image and look at that just as much as what you're drawing. Okay, so the outline really stays along the inside of this vertical here, but it does go past a little bit. And let's just double check and make sure I'm on the right path. I'm counting 7 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I'm on the right path here. Always good to double check. And then part of her shirt goes up. Let's see, it's going into 3 squares, I think. So I think I maybe made the cat's fur go down a little too long. Let's see. This would be the woman's arm. And that goes maybe about a third of the way down. And then it cuts in to about 2/5, and then maybe a third-ish. And then cuts in again. Okay. And then, let's see. Now that I have the outline done, sharpen the pencil quick. And let's start working on some notable features like her hairline. So this is going to cut, let's see, across. And let's see, it goes maybe about halfway down, a little over, a little closer, maybe about a quarter of the way from the end of that line. Then it almost abuts up against the vertical line here. And then it goes up to maybe about 3/5 of the way up on there, cuts back down again, maybe a third or so. It's very, very close to the intersection of the vertical and horizontal line here, goes down. And notice as I'm sketching, I'm using very short, choppy lines. And so I just kind of redirect. It's okay to have some errant lines. I wouldn't erase those bad lines. The bad lines actually are a guideline for the correct line that you'll put down. You might shoot a line that's a little too high or a little too low, and then you say, hey, right in the middle between those 2 points is where the correct line should be. So don't erase the bad lines, leave them there, and then just fine tune it later. You can always darken the good lines to differentiate them from the bad lines. You can also take your eraser and kind of use the corner and erase the bad lines around it if you need to. But just use short, choppy lines so you can always redirect your path as you're drawing. People that have done a lot of sketching, well, this will come naturally to you. Let's see here. This is going to go maybe about a third to the end on this side, and then there's a little part of her hair going right by her ear right there. We'll leave that off. And then I would like to, another notable feature would be her shirt line. And let's see, this goes from this vertical right here by her ear, and it's going to start, make sure I have this correct, it's going to start right around here. It hugs very close to the edge of this vertical line, and then it cuts over to maybe about halfway on this one. See exactly that. These lines here were wrong lines, and so I'm redefining it on this edge, but I didn't erase it yet. First, I want to establish the correct line. Then I can erase. Just cut along here and just erase it. Redefine it, no big deal. All right. Maybe let's get that a little rounder looking by making this vertical a little closer. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right, let's sharpen the pencil. And I tell you what, let's get these flowers into while we're at it before I get too carried away with the detail here. Just quickly establish the outlines of the flowers. And let's see, where are we at? Where are we at here? Here's the ears. So I'm saying, okay, it's going to be this next square down, flower kind of touches the cat a little bit visually. And just kind of bring this in. Then this goes maybe about a third of the way up. Halfway on this vertical here, horizontal line, I should say, and then goes all the way over to maybe about a third. Let's erase that quickly. See how nicely that erases? Now, sometimes I do erase it if the line is really, really off. But again, I have to push this a little bit closer. This is going to go maybe about halfway. Cut in just a bit on this side, maybe a third away from the edge. And let's go down here. Now, let's continue it on this side. Close to intersecting. And somewhere along here we have the middle of the flower. Is that called a pistil? I don't remember what the middle part is called. Biology class is a long time ago, but people that love flowers, I'm sure, know what the middle part of the flower is called. Then go down. So you get this leaf or petal going right up to the edge. I don't draw a lot of flowers either, but again, I'm just drawing exactly what I'm seeing here. As long as I get the shapes right, the colors and the values right, it'll look like a flower. Cut this down on this side a little bit. And let's see, we got a couple petals. One is going, maybe about a third. And then here we go. This goes maybe just a little past that line. Okay, and just continue this line down. Let's see here. Make sure I have this right. So if I'm way, way off, then I will erase it. But if I'm close, I usually use the other lines as a guideline. Here I was quite a bit off. This actually needs to go, let's see, where am I at here? Okay, I have this part. Okay, kind of lost my bearing. This is a leaf here, a green leaf, and this is the petal. And then here, the petal goes down here, and there's a lighter petal underneath. And then part of the petal goes, let's see, nope, not that far over. I'm off quite a bit, so I'm going to erase it, but it goes there, and then kind of curves down. Something else. And let's see, that kind of goes like that, that angle. Paying attention to the angle and kind of where everything falls. This intersects here. Then This goes maybe about 2/3 of the way over. Let's get that little round part of the flower, the pistil or whatever it's called. Somebody that likes flowers, you're watching this video, if you want to put in the comments section below what that little part of the flower is called, that would be great. I think that would be neat if you knew what it was called and could point that out for me. And the next time I paint or draw flowers, I can call it by the right name. All right, so I have that part right here. I know that's the part that the bees like, where all the pollen is at, so. Okay. And we'll get this line here. Now that I have a few benchmarks, it's a little easier to get some of these other details. Well, I'm not going to over detail that. Sharpen pencil. And another great reason to use a colored pencil for the sketching process is that colored pencil does not smear nearly as much as graphite. So with graphite, you'd rest your hand on an area and you just smear everything. Colored pencil, not so much. So it's really, really nice for that reason. I'm gonna pause here and I'm gonna switch back to actually see my screen. Okay, so now you can see the photo and what I've sketched so far in comparison. Just basically, I sketched the outlines of her head, the outline of the cat. I didn't get her arm in yet, and then I got the flowers in. But I'll be going in and working probably on the arm, getting some parts of her face and the necklace and different details. Okay, so let's go in there and work on the arm. Kind of find a good starting line. Make sure I'm in the right area, 3 squares up. This is defining the line between the cat and the woman's arm. So this line, I'm just paying attention to where these fall. This goes maybe 2/5 of the way over horizontally, and then vertically maybe about 1/3. And this line goes up, kind of looking at the angles. Don't care so much whether the lines are smooth, but I just want to get the overall direction correct. And let's see here. Okay, got a little fur texture, kind of suggests that. And then the wrist kind of cuts in right along here. Stays pretty well parallel with the grid line. And then she's wearing a watch. I might as well suggest that since I'm in the neighborhood here. Something like that. Watch or bracelet. Okay, that'll give the arm some good dimension to have that in there. Let's get that sleeve in. And that's going to be somewhere right in here. Okay, something like that. Let's sharpen this pencil. You will go through a lot. The texture of the canvas really eats up the colored pencil quickly, so you'll have to invest in a couple of these, but I think they're worth it. I'm going to move this over just a bit so I can get to the side a little better. And now I want to paint some of the details of her face, I think. Before I do that, let's kind of get this necklace in. Let's get that necklace in. So it falls, oh, maybe Yeah, about a third of the way in from the edge of that other line. And this angle goes down like that, maybe to the corner, something like that anyway. You can refine that later. Just nice and sharp as I get into the details of her face. I'm just going to suggest before I do that a few details in the hair. There's just a nice little area of her hair that I want to capture, and a certain wave of her hair. It's really nice, and I want to make that look just like it ought to. It's part of her unique look, and I don't want to miss that. It's a little bit where the skin is showing through that part of the hair. This is kind of where the part starts, so I'll just suggest that with a few sketchy lines. Maybe a little bit of something going on in here. Okay. Now for the face. Move this over just a little bit. Tilt that up a little bit higher. Now, let's see. We're starting. Okay. 1 1/3 squares over. This is part of her eyebrow. And then her eye actually cuts in. Now, this is where I'm going to get very, very picky, because the eyes are so important. I mean, you have to get the eyes very, very accurate to capture a likeness correctly. And so with that, I'm going to really pay attention to where the lines fall within the square. And it looks like the top lid of the eye is maybe a little more than halfway up on this square. And then the corner of it goes to a little less than halfway in the other direction. And that's then just the corner of where the top eyelid meets the lower eyelid. Then we have the little wrinkle, the smile wrinkle coming from that everybody has. And that's going to cut down a little bit. Now, keep this line going across, really nice here. And let's see. When I look at it, I say, nope, I got to erase that. That's too substantially off. Let me use this eraser. That'll get it a little better. There we go. This should be just slightly lower. Be like that. Then this bottom eyelid goes to maybe about a third, but not quite, maybe 2/5, or sorry, 1/5. And let's see here. The end where her tear duct is goes to maybe, yeah, maybe right there. Say about 2/3 of the way over. Eyeball cuts in on this side just a little bit. Something like that. Let's get the other one in. I can refine it a little bit later, but I just overall want to get the positioning. So we go over a square, a little over, have one square in between the two, and then The tear duct goes to about 2/5 of the way up. And then her eye has a little bit of an angle, and then it goes down again and intersects this line at about maybe a half or so. So that goes up like that. Their eyeball. This is where I'd have to guesstimate. I don't have any guiding lines, so you just have to use your judgment. You want to make sure that these eyeballs are about the same size. Let's just redefine that. And let's see. Now her eyebrows are not very prominent, so I'm not going to do a lot to suggest them. There's just kind of a little bit of a shadow where her eye socket is. I do want to suggest them a little bit. Okay, so just a little there, and then a little bit on this side. It's very important to capture that. The placement of the eyebrows, the eyes, the shape of the eyes is so important in sketching. Move this over just a little bit. You want to have the correct distance between the eyebrows or the eye socket area, whatever that ridge is that you can see in the face as the skin is over the skull. You want to have the correct distance between those 2 points, the distance between the eyes, the shape of the eyes, how prominent the eyelid is. All of those things really contribute to the unique look of a person, and you want to capture those things correctly. We see just a little bit here. Goes up. There we go. It's just a little bit of a divot here. And then something going on there. A little bit of a wrinkle. Just where the nose cuts in. And that actually goes about that far in. And probably put the pupil in just to get a benchmark for where we're at and where the eye is positioned. And I don't want it right in the center. I can see it's actually up a little higher. It's up a little higher, so it's closer to the top eyelid than it is the lower eyelid. And that's important to differentiate that. Okay. Now there's some wrinkles below that I need to capture, those smile wrinkles. Everybody has them. They get a little more prominent as we age. That's part of the look. You want to capture that faithfully here. All right, so I'm going to continue down into her nose area, and somewhere about here, oh, we're saying maybe a third, not quite a third, but it kind of lines up with the tear duct, almost. This is where the nose, the nostril starts on the side. And then it cuts down. Now let's see, the bottom of the nose maybe, less than halfway. And then let's see here. Not that line is too substantially off. I need to erase that. It's hard to differentiate because of the values being the same on the nose and the upper lip. It goes something like that to maybe about a third of the way over. Should line up with part of the eye. And something like that. Now for the mouth. Now we will start, so let's see. Let's use the mouth wrinkle as a guide. Smile wrinkle. Goes all the way to the edge. And curves down a little bit. Smile follows very much this particular line. The actual lip starts about halfway, looks like. I'm going to, let's see, just lessen my grid marks a little bit so I can see the lips better. Seem to follow it pretty closely. Yep, just stays right on that line. Then the upper lip goes maybe, I don't know, a little more than a quarter of the way up. Then this particular line somewhere around here starts to angle up a little higher. I want to get that angle right on the lower lip. And that goes down maybe almost, not quite halfway, but 2/5 of the way down. Bottom of her lip is a little nebulous because there's an area right here where it tends to stop, but it continues a little bit past that as well. Now let's get this smile wrinkle here, which goes all the way maybe about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way over. And it goes up maybe a third of the way up. It might be off a little bit more than I thought. Let's cut it over this way. I'll tell you what, I think this line that I had for the cat's ear was a little off, and that's what's throwing me off on this whole thing. So I really had it right the first time. And this does go about half the way over. Maybe not quite as high. I have to erase a little bit because my lines are getting kind of dark here. All right, that'll work for now. I might refine it a little bit later. Now let's work on the chin, which I see goes about halfway down on these verticals. And then kind of cuts over a little bit. I get that shape correct, and then there's another line right here Something like that. It's about half of the way down, but maybe not quite. Let's erase that a little bit. Maybe not half, maybe about 2/5. There we go. Smile is suggested more by the cheeks than even the shape of the mouth. Mouth, by the way, doesn't always turn up in a smile. It can turn down a little bit, but the cheeks really suggest it. So getting the shape correct, getting the shadowing correct is very, very important in that look. I suggest it just a little bit with some sketch lines, just where some of the shadowing might fall. And the shape of it as well. Cheek actually juts out just a little bit past your ear, which is up in here. Let's get a little bit more of the nose detail right here. Sure I have the shape of the lip correct. There we go. And add a little thickness to the eyelid up here. Just a little bit there. A few little wrinkles that I want to capture. Soften that up just a bit though. Don't want to get carried away with that. Also, the roundness of her lower eyelid, I want to refine that. I might have had it a little too round. It's easy enough to add too much white to the eyes, but actually there's not as much showing as what I thought. Even this area here of the area between the eyelid that's touching the eye and then this upper eyelid is a little bit thicker than what I had it. And I have to get this sharp. Just have to get it so sharp for that. I want to make sure I have the size of the eyeballs correct because I can see that there may be about the width of a third the width of an entire square. I got these shadows here from the eye socket that I want to accentuate just a bit. And this maybe should go up a little higher. And this could go up maybe a bit higher on the top. This is a very important part of the face, so I don't want to neglect that. And some little wrinkles here we can begin to identify where they go. Just to make it look like she's really smiling. Now I see these lines could go a little further out, all the way maybe right there. And this goes past just a little bit. A little bit of a thickness there to the eyelid. And that's important to capture. Now, sometimes with the sketch, you don't get an exact likeness. Try to get it as close as you can, but you realize that some of the shading that you're going to do in the painting will help describe the face more. You just want to get it very, very close. I'm going to work on the cat a little bit. I might come back to the face later, but I'm going to work on the cat for right now. The cat's been neglected for a little while. So let's do the eyes here. We go down one. Let's see, 1, 2, and it starts right here. Get a benchmark for that. And it goes down maybe a third of the way down. It's going to cut up in here. It goes maybe 2/3 of the way over. Starts right there. Let's see. And let's see, this goes down something like that. And then nose about like this. It's the little pupils there. And this goes in something like that. Some of these patterns in. Really can describe some of the features of the cat. Place that away just a little bit. Move this over just a little to the right. Yeah, I better move that over a little bit more. All right, now got the nose. Let's do the mouth. This follows right along this line. Comes in maybe about a third this way. It's a little area below. And let's see, there's a little tuft of hair coming in somewhere right around here that I want to delineate. And let's see, more organic shapes of hair on this end coming down. The texture. And then somewhere along in here, it cuts up. Goes maybe a third of the way over on this side. There's a little divot here that's part of his eye socket, I guess. Just like that. That ear shape really nice. A little bit of darkness to define it. This ear shape drawn nicely. Kind of define the ear a little bit down on this side. Use some hash marks to tell where we have some of the shadows at, as if we're drawing a little bit. That'll just kind of tell me what to do when I'm painting and where to go with things. Maybe when I start blocking in my values, I'll know where to put them. And since I use a very translucent technique, we'll see a lot of this anyway. See a lot of the pencil work, at least initially. Eventually it'll get covered up more or less by the paint, but initially you'll really be able to tell. And so just blocking this in really kind of helps. Just kind of using the side of the pencil for this. And a little part of the whiskers here that need to be captured. There's these little dot kind of things where the whiskers grow out of, and I'm not going to draw the whiskers in because that will be painted later. All right. Now, I was going to draw the leaf up here. So let's see, where should that start? Judging by the eye, it goes up one more. And then it goes over how many squares? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because it starts above the one by the cat's ear. Yeah, so it's right in here. Just get that leaf. That's kind of a prominent part of the painting. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just something close. Okay, something like that. And maybe we'll expand that a little bit more. Something like that. And go down a little bit on this one. Let's capture these leaves. 1, 2, 3, somewhere right here. Maybe about a third of the way. I'm not going to be super picky with this. little more free-handed style with this there. Maybe I'll kind of capture the shape where that should fall on this side. Even though I think that'll be somewhat out of focus. And the other leaves we can have just mostly out of focus. Differentiation between the foreground and background. Let's get this detail of the ear. I neglected that. And let's refine the shape of the cat's eye just a little bit here. A few more details. The cat's fur. I want to get this little bit here, that's important. Kind of comes down like that, goes to the corner. Go. A few of the stripes. Just a few of the stripes, which are very important to capture the likeness of this cat. All right, I might need to change that one just a little bit. So it cuts in a little more this way. Kind of define the edge of the arm a little bit better. There's a little muscly area of the wrist that I want to define down here. All right. And kind of define the arm shape a little better. There we go. That ear might go up just a little too high. Let's kind of shrink that a little bit. There we go. Let's see if I need to get any more details on the flowers. There we are. A few more of these shapes. couple of leaves here, green leaves. And let's just double check some of the details here in the face. Just want to find some of those very important details of the eye. A little bit of shading underneath the eyelid. And a little shadowing under the nose. A little shadow on the lip. All right, there's just a little crease right there I want to capture. There's a little divot here under her lower lip. Shows where her chin juts out maybe just a little bit, and I want to differentiate that with a little shading, because realism is not captured really by line but by differences in value. Although initially we have to use line, we're going to do away with that in favor of difference in value. So all these things like the shadows in certain areas are going to go a long ways in making a person look like how they're supposed to look. I want to get that little section of her necklace there. They're kind of in segments. Maybe it's just a bit thicker than what I drew it as. It's important to get that in there. A little bit of a seam on her shirt, I could get that in. And just kind of suggest the curvature of her cheeks ever so slightly. And that goes a long ways in making the smile look correct. Find a few of these crow's feet wrinkles here, which again is very important in capturing the smile. Everybody has them. We got to get them in there. Of course, they just get more prominent as we age, but they really say a lot about the face and how much a person smiles and how they look when they smile, and just that beautiful, beautiful look that they have when they do smile. Everybody, I think, has a beauty when they smile. We like to capture that as artists. Let's lighten it up just a bit right in here. Eyebrows are not very apparent, but they're there, and I want to just capture that look that's unique to her face. Making sure that I have the nostrils going up high enough. Maybe I need to raise that up just a bit. Make sure also that it goes wide enough on this side. And this mouth wrinkle goes almost to the edge of that line. So I want to make sure I get that correct. Very, very subtle. The shape here is very, very subtle. Kind of comes out this way and just curves in just a little bit. It goes down just a little bit like that. There's some very faint wrinkles there. There we go. Redefine this line there and some of these other lines. Of course, the more we define some of these edges, the better it'll stand out against the gray of the grid. Gray of the grid. The more it'll stand out against the grid lines and be able to obscure them with paint. Just got a little bit of shading here for her temple. Differentiate that from her hairline just a bit. There's a little shadow under here. We can kind of capture that. Doing this shading kind of tells me where I'm at with the portrait, if I'm on target or not. Even if some of this will get covered up by paint, it'll really tell me not only in the sketching process, but also then when I get to the painting process where I should go with my initial layers of paint. The more shading I have down, sometimes the better I can tell if it's looking properly like the person or not. Refine this line by the arm. Go. I cut in just a little bit more this way. It actually starts probably about there. And it goes a little past the line. That over off of the tacks there. I'm just holding this up with a couple of push pins. I have a drafting table instead of an easel, so I can actually sit down as I'm painting. It's very nice. Means I have to get a little more exercise though throughout the day to compensate for that, but it is nice to be able to sit down and also to be able to tilt everything at the right angle that you want as you're painting. So now we're just kind of refining a few areas here and there. Making sure, okay, I see the nostril, making sure it lines up with the tear duct. That often happens in most faces. The nostril, if you take the line coming from, you know, the the smile and just the curvature of that crease in the cheek as a person smiles, and you just continue that line imaginarily, if that's a word, but just continue it and pretend it continues past the point of the nostril. It'll actually connect usually with the tear duct. See how that would happen here? It would connect with the tear duct, and it kind of keeps you on track and helps you to know if you're getting your proportions right. This is an important line because I want to make sure her nostril looks round enough, but does get a little more angle. Okay, so this wrinkle here actually extends lower than what I thought. Kind of goes all the way down to here and then a little bit further. Not quite like that though. Get these shapes correct and the curves, these lines correct. Even this shape of the cheek, it's important where I have that falling on the face. But I'm getting close to being done with this sketch here. Pretty close to being done. Let's just have this shape a little bit at an opposite angle. I like to have opposing angles on different shapes. If this is the foreground, which it is, because it's a subject, I like to have the background at an opposing, like a perpendicular angle, because otherwise it gets hard to differentiate the foreground from the background. So I just made this line a little more perpendicular to this line here. But with this, I think we just about have this done. So I hope you enjoyed this video where we showed you how to do sketching with the grid on an example 12 by 16 portrait. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, found it informational, and hopefully it'll help you with your own artwork if you're an artist, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel here. Also, give my video a thumbs up if you like it. That helps more people to see it. And you can also keep in touch with me on my blog, mattphilleo.com, where I will show you more tips and techniques on how to do realistic portraits from start to finish. So have a blessed day and happy painting.